Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Jennifer Harris, and I am here kicking off the new series for the Whole Story Counseling blog called Am I in Trouble? Learning to silence the voice of your inner critic and learn how to speak to yourself with kindness and grace to understand what is going on and to have the tools to shift the narrative, to shift how you feel, to calm your nervous system, and to start to unlearn this way of being. So, for every overthinker with a top-notch panic spiral, this blog is for you. So, we're going to talk tonight about this feeling that a lot of people have. You'd be surprised. If you're not one of them, then congratulations. We'll talk about what it is that you have on another blog series. But for many of us, we got wired in our nervous system with a story that for some reason we believe that we're in trouble. And if we're not in trouble, we're going to get in trouble. And when we do, we're going to be punished. And I'm not talking about punishment as in I'm going to go to jail, although sometimes that can be a real fear, a real perceived outcome. What I'm talking about is that the punishment is relational shutting out, relational shunning, relational outsiderness, the opposite of belonging, the opposite of connection, the disconnection from your people. So tonight, we'll start with this question. Why do I so often feel like I'm in trouble? And why do I so often feel like something's wrong, even when I know nothing is wrong? What if then we could shift that question to what if the anxiety of this feeling of being in trouble isn't actually about what's happening right now? It's actually a story that your nervous system learned in childhood. Yeah, sorry, always goes back to childhood. If you don't believe me, ask ChatGPT, like half my clients, and ask them, when do we learn what drives us? And you're going to read the research, and it's going to show you that our beliefs and our emotional patterns and all of those things are formed in childhood, sometimes as early as age 6 or 7. And that the family of origin is the most influential and crucial training ground for how we learn to be people. That's just a little side note that I throw on there. So, what if, yes, it goes back to childhood, and what if this feeling is not actually a story about what's happening right now? It's a story that got wired into your nervous system in childhood, and it still believes it to be true. So, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what went wrong. Then, through the series, we're going to talk about how that affects us and what we can do about it. So many of us, and yes, I'm including myself in this. I know that sometimes people think that that those of us who do counseling that have a therapeutic, talking, safe space relationship with other people don't have any problems anymore. Oh, I wish that were so. What I do have are some learned and still practicing tools to shift this when it shows up. So many of us, me too, live with a low grade and sometimes high intensity fear of being in trouble, even when we're safe. Do you ever have the experience that you play a conversation over and over in your mind, thinking, what could I have said differently to have gotten a different outcome? Do you ever worry that when you make a decision that something's going to happen and you're going to get in trouble for it? For me, it is a voice that keeps telling me I need to hurry up, I need to hurry up, I need to hurry up. I've got to get this done or I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get this done or I'm going to get in trouble. Sometimes when I find myself really dysregulated, a knock on the door, and for some reason, the neighborhood I live, I get a lot of solicitors and pest control above all. Apparently, my house is overrun with bugs. I don't know it. But there's something about that knock on the door that I'm not expecting that I am braced for something to be wrong with me. Okay. So this is rooted in our early encounters, interactions, experiences with the people that were responsible for raising us, our caregivers. For most of us, those were parents, some of us grandparents, some foster parents, some aunts, uncles, and some other chosen family type. We learned what it was to interact with people and whether or not that was safe. And then if it wasn't safe, which for many of us it wasn't, how to control safety. So this feeling is not your fault. It's not my fault. It was a story that my body, my nervous system, and then my emotions participated in building. It was built to protect us. It was built to keep us safe. And as adults now, we have the possibility to go back to our younger self and say, we're not actually in trouble. We're okay right now. We've just learned a way of being to stay safe. And unfortunately, that way of being taught us that we had to trade pieces of our real self to feel safe, to be seen, to be heard, to be loved. We put them away, we hid them. That always creates anxiety, especially the older that we get. And if we have any inkling as to what else might be possible, that anxiety will grow. And I believe that that anxiety is grace. That anxiety is an invitation to say, something's wrong. Want to do something different? I do. I want to do something different. So this series is about unlearning this pattern, catching it in the act, and then shifting the narrative that our nervous system is living in, and to reclaim what it means to be connected to our own self, to God, to others, in the kind of connection that doesn't cost my wholeness, where I can show up fully as I am, warts and all, gifts and talents and all, and be accepted where that connection is safe enough. Doesn't that sound lovely? So take a deep breath with me, in through the nose and slowly out through the mouth. And tell yourself, I'm safe. I might not feel safe. I might be a little dysregulated. And if so, take a few more deep breaths. Pause the video, take a few more. And let's kick off by going back to where does this come from? The origins. So when we are in families where we are taught that love, belonging, and connection was conditional, that it was given or taken away based on a set of implicitly often changing rules, or if we learned that the love, connection, and belonging was unpredictable, we would follow the same rules and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. That inconsistency of I did XYZ last time and it worked, but I'm doing XYZ this time. It's not working. What's happening? What did I do wrong? So we started to equate love with approval and compliance. And yet, because of the challenges of our own caregivers, a lot of times those rules weren't consistent across the board. One of the expressions that people use is that the goalpost kept moving. And so that lack of reliability and stability creates a sense of instability, insecurity, which then lives out in attachment wounds. We learned that people are not connecting to us when I'm this way, so I'm going to try this way. The other thing that can happen is that in relationships, when this misattunement happens, that these small, repeated experiences where the child has to attune to the adult people's moods and change who they are rather than the other way around, or a mutual welcoming of thoughts, feelings, emotions, behaviors, that these are like small little drips of small t traumas over time that often can result in a PTSD or CPSD kind of reaction when those patterns are replicated in adults. So then we come out of a family system that is based on hierarchy, on control, on not disappointing others. Even in loving homes, this can happen. A lot of times we can say, I can ask, did your parents love you? Yes, they loved me. Did they ever ask you how you felt? No. Did they ever invite your opinion? No. Did they ever welcome your emotions when they did show up? No. How did you know you were loved? I just know. Well, that's kind of a, I know my parents love me that children have to cling to as a biological safety net. But at the same time, there is this underlying thing that if I don't follow the rules, if I don't obey right, if I don't keep it in line, I will be disconnected. I will be out. My love, belonging, and connection will be taken away. On top of this, there are religious and cultural systems that teach us that this perfectionism is connected to our worth, that if we are not perfect, our worth is toast. So we add this, my family is not a reliable place. And then if you are in a church where there's a very legalistic, even implied or implicitly implied that I have to follow the rules, I have to toe the line to be accepted, then it's just this layer upon layer upon layer that builds in this sense of instability at our core that results in how do I not get in trouble? How do I avoid this? How do I? And so this constant on guardedness, hyper vigilance. I am constantly scanning the horizons, trying to prepare, trying to prevent, trying to outwit myself almost. Because if you want to grab a book that has some really lovely, simple, easy to grasp concepts, grab this book. Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. It's such a great book because it pulls together a lot of research and it's also written in kind of 2 or 3 or 4 bite-sized pieces with a fantastic table of contents so that you can go right to the thing that you want to look at. He writes that these early experiences where we are not attuned too well, which means that my caregivers don't read me well. They don't notice that I'm not okay. It becomes the child's job to notice the adults are not okay and shift themselves rather than the other way around. So Walker writes that these early experiences result in a change in the child's brain in what's called the superego. Now, this is a way of looking at the brain where we have the ego, the id, the superego. So the ego is sort of the super in control part. The id is the super out of control part. And the super ego is the part that tries to balance them out, tries to make everybody get along. And what happens is that the super ego, the part of the brain that is what is trying to control the impulsivity of self and also the good, like trying to balance the devil and the angel on your shoulder. This part of the brain, which is the ethical and moral compass, it forms the conscience. It is the part that learns what's okay in order to be accepted into society. This part gets wired to the child's identity. It's no longer a set of rules that govern behavior. It actually controls identity. So the super ego, this rule follower, goes into overtime trying to learn the rules of the family in order to get and maintain love, belonging, and connection. And when this gets merged into the child's identity, the child's very selfhood is connected to trying to figure out how to get what they need from their caretakers, how to get that connection and belonging and love that they're not getting consistently or reliably or sometimes not at all. And the problem is the child never figures it out because in an emotionally unsafe family, acceptance is not possible. So this identity that becomes is constantly trying to figure out the right formula to win over the parents, the caregivers, to X plus Y plus Z to be safe and included. It never comes. And so the child tries harder and harder and harder. And so since it never works, the result is this relentless wolf at your heels of perfection, this demand, this obsession almost, this push. I have to be more perfect. I have to be more perfect. I have to be more perfect because if I don't, I will never get my needs met. As Walker writes, the price of admission we learn to any relationship is the forfeiture of all of my needs, rights, preferences, and boundaries in order to try to get from you what I'm not getting from you. And when that fails, which it always does, here's the challenge. The child always blames themselves for not doing it right. The child blames themselves for being at fault, for not figuring out the right formula, for not getting it right, rather than understanding that the problem lies with the parent, not themselves. It would never occur to a child to blame the parent, ever. These are my parents. They are the adults. They are the large and in charge. They're the authority. They're the ones that are bigger than me, physically and emotionally and spiritually. So we absorb this story that I got to keep moving. I got to keep moving. You know, Brene Brown has that little phrase that I love so much. We learn to hustle for worthiness. And in this story, we're hustling to be worthy of love and belonging and connection. A lot of people have this kind of childhood, and how that gets wired into us is different based on different personalities. But what we're talking about right now is the kind of I have to figure out what is X plus Y plus Z in every situation so that I don't have to be afraid of the knock on the door. Do you ever notice that when you check your email in the morning, first thing it's like, oh God, what did I do? Oh boy, who needs me now? What did I do wrong? Or if you, heaven forbid, share your thoughts or feelings with your really good friend over dinner and you drive all the way home just beating yourself up over why did I say that? Why did they say that? They hate me. They hate me. They hate me. Or if something happens in relationships and someone reaches out and says, hey, can we talk? You are instantly in worst case scenario, always worst case scenario. So, signs that you might be carrying this I'm in trouble story. Constant self-monitoring. That overthinking thing in your brain that is constantly going over conversations, that is constantly going over emails, that is constantly rewriting your texts 62 times before you hit send. Did I say too much? Did I say not enough? Did I say it just right? Will they understand me? Maybe I should say it this way. Did I offend them? Oh my gosh, maybe I offended them. Maybe they hate me. And it never occurs to you to ask yourself, how do I feel in this situation? We also learn a hypervigilance, not just for safety in our surroundings, which is part of it, especially if you have experienced physical boundary violations or trauma in your child of origin. That can be as small, I'm going to air quote that, as parents who just barge into your room without knocking, all the way up to physical and sexual assault and violence against our bodies. We also become very vigilant for people's body language, tone of voice, facial expressions. When a text message feels off, or when it seems that my friend always texts me 3 times today and they only texted me one today, I'm sure they're mad at me. It never occurs to us that something else could be possibly going on. And it is always, again, what do they think about me? Couple that with, this will not surprise you, this need, or I'm sorry, the feeling guilty forever setting a boundary or heaven forbid saying no. It is so guilt inducing to say no, I can't do that. Or um, this doesn't work for me. Can we do it differently? Yikes. We also, number 4, we need permission almost for making any kind of decision or changes. And when we make a decision or make a change, our am I in troubleness ratchets way up and we're waiting for the knock on the door or the email rejection or whatever. So anything around making decisions or making change is really hard. We might need to ask 62 people. We might need to research the topic ad nauseum. We might need to write a list 60,000 times. We might go in our head and spin, 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 spin. We might freeze. I often joke that Starbucks is the worst place to order coffee because you walk in and it's like all of these options, and it's like, where's the coffee? You almost get choice paralysis because there's too many options. Any choice, any decision often feels that way because do I have permission to even make this choice? And if I make the wrong one, because of course we're still trying to find X plus Y plus Z to get love, belonging, and connection, we're not sure if we even have the right to make a choice at all. Somebody has to do it for me so I don't get in trouble. So I don't do it wrong and then get in trouble. And lastly, we tend to over apologize a lot because we feel responsible for how other people feel. It is our fault when other people are not happy 24/7. So constant self-monitoring, hypervigilance, feeling guilty to say no or set a boundary, needing permission to make a decision, feeling paralyzed around decision, and the accompanying, when I do make a decision, that am I going to get in trouble for it? And then over apologizing and that responsibility for other people's moods and feelings. The reason for this is because we got a story wired into our nervous system to try to be always on the lookout for danger. These are thoughts that go through our head, yes, but they begin because our nervous system is already on high alert, and that's a body thing. That is an emotional thing that lives out in our body. So the challenge of that is that it keeps us from being able to enjoy the present moment. Bessel van der Kolk says that this wiring, this hypervigilance, this high alert, this scanning for danger keeps us from being able to enjoy the present moment. If you haven't read The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, go get it right now. All about how these stories live in our bodies. Now, this sense of trouble that lives in our nervous system is trying to protect us. It's trying to keep us safe. It is trying to help us find love and connection and belonging and safety and security and that inness of being in a community where it's safe. The challenge is that we try to go in our head to solve the problem, and it's not a thought problem, it's a body problem. It's a nervous system reaction that we can't think our way out of. So anything that feels like disconnection triggers this in our body, and we tend to go into our thoughts, overthink, 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 panic, panic, panic. But panic is actually happening because my body is dysregulated. If we can remember that this is a self-protective mechanism, it is not evil. Buford is down there chewing on something. It is not evil. It was not formed because there is something fundamentally flawed, defective, or broken. It developed as a protector to try to get what is a basic and so vitally necessary need for every human: to be loved, to be safe, to belong, to be connected, to not be outed. So the more that we find ourselves always going out to other people for permission to exist, the more anxiety we carry. And the way that for some of us that anxiety lives out is this feeling that niggles in the back of our head. I'm in trouble, or if I'm not in trouble now, I'm about to be. How do we shift from our nervous system being dysregulated into anxiety into regulation, even if I'm triggered? And it all begins with reframing the story that our nervous system is telling us. One, I'm not in trouble right now. I'm remembering a time in the past when I felt like I was, and I'm trying to avoid that feeling again because this thing just spiked that neural pathway, which has run so hard, so fast for so many years. It's before I can even speak the word, it's already on autopilot. What if nothing is wrong with you? What if you have noticed that something feels like I am a little disconnected? I'm reacting to my friend usually texts me 3 times a day, and this is only once. I'm feeling disconnected. And yet, at the same time, what if we can shift from it being as a confirmation of our unworthiness, of our shame, of our intensely cruel way of looking at ourselves? What if it's an invitation to find connection again? That this feeling of trouble is a disconnection, not just from others, but from our own self and the Spirit of God that lives in each of us. The universal energetic force fields that science show interconnects all of us. What if I'm feeling disconnected from trusting in that, from seeing that, and that this anxiety is an invitation to reconnect, to find the socket and plug back in. So to notice when I'm feeling this story in the back of my mind, we begin by getting curious. What is going on right now? What am I noticing? What's happening for me right now? Wow, that's kind of wow. If you hang around me a lot, you notice I say a couple of things. I'm so cute right now, or I'll say, "Hi, I see you. Hi, it's happening again. I'm cute." So some part of me that has been triggered by something out here has now been hijacked by my nervous system that I learned when I was a kid. So in many ways, I'm not an adult anymore. My kid self has taken over, trying to protect me. Okay. So if I can say this is what's happening for me right now, I can go back and say, what kicked that off? What story is my nervous system telling me right now? I'm disconnected. Okay. How do I calm my nervous system, aka engage emotionally and in my body first to meet that, because that's the story that's up. It is not in your brain now, sorry. It is in my body. We start there, meet those needs in our body and our emotions, and then we can see, okay, what's next? So let's say, for example, something happens. We feel those reduction of 3 to 1 text messages. And I think, my friend hates me. My friend hates me. And suddenly you realize that 15 minutes are gone in a spiral, or some people like power clean, or some people like turn on Netflix, or some people find something to distract. Whenever you notice, okay, what just happened here? Wow. Hi. Does it make sense that this is the story that comes up? Yes, because I'm learning that when I feel any type of disconnection, because remember, we're hyper attuned to even the sniff of it, I'm feeling some disconnection. How can I hide? I have been trained to believe that that's my fault and I've done something wrong and I'm going to get in trouble for it. I'm feeling the consequences of being in trouble right now because I'm disconnected. And I get where that comes from. Our Our trouble story takes our vision and makes it like this. But when we start to say it makes sense, I understand where it's coming from. It's not the only story in the room. When we take some deep breaths and respond with kindness and connection to myself first. Notice what's going on. Name the story that's up that my body got hijacked by. And then we nurture that younger self that shows up. My little girl did not feel safe. Okay, hi. Can I bring her to my mind and just love her? I'm not embarrassed by her. She's not a pain in the butt. Her needs are not too much. She's a child. And she's not feeling it right now. But I can attune to her, which releases the body, releases the emotions, some deep breaths, some essential oils, some grounding techniques in my body. And then, what other story could also be possible? Is my friend busy? I have a friend that for so many times, her communication was sporadic. And when we would be together, I trusted her love for me and my love for her, no doubt. But the inconsistency of her communication triggered this story in me. So one day I asked her, shaking in my boots, but I asked her, have I done something wrong? And she very openly said, no, I'm just terrible about connecting in between. I love you. I love being with you. And I promise that if something is wrong, I'll tell you. And do you know what? I have been able to regulate my nervous system when distance comes between us, space or time comes between us, with going back to her words. I trust her. She has told me that if something is wrong, she will tell me. I haven't done anything wrong. This is just her. I'm okay. We're okay. I choose to trust her word. So when we find people safe enough to try to practice this with, all of those interactions that are safe enough over time start to rewrite the story that was also planted drip by drip by drip that I'm not safe. These safe enough encounters then start to teach my nervous system I am safe, and this is not the only story that I can believe. So we have to notice what's going on, name the story that is up, and then we have to do this third step, this nurturing, attunement, acceptance, allowance. This is what is up for me, and it's okay. I'm going to be okay with, I have some needs right now. Heaven forbid we have needs for connection and belonging. And then take some deep breaths, get back in our body. Notice, yeah, it's always the shoulders and the jaw for me. Where is it in your body? Engage, take some deep breaths, and then Where can I offer myself or reach out to someone who's safe to connect? I'm going to also post some supplemental videos here to do a deeper dive on some of the stories behind why this has happened based on uh, family roles, family systems, and the roles that we have been taught to play in our families that we replicate in relationships in adulthood, based on attachment styles, what is attachment very briefly, and how that shows up in this story of being in trouble. And lastly, based on Enneagram type, how that why we feel this way, the story that got planted at the root of that, and then how that shows up for each type. So look for those videos as we get going in the series. So it's going to be, this is episode 1, but then there's going to be like a 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 for each of those things. I'm just noticing over my shoulder. I didn't realize this little post-it note that's here that was drawn by my niece because just having her little presence in my room helps regulate me. Those are little moments of regulation. So what do you need to do to get regulated on a more daily basis? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to have a glass of water? You would be surprised how dysregulated we are when we are thirsty. Do I need a little more connection? Do I need a little less connection? Do I need to say no to something? Do I need a deep breath? When we start to connect that these stories that live up here are not actually living up here, they live in our body, then we can start to intervene, interact with them, shift the narrative. So look for those supplemental videos. And then our next video, officially episode 2, we're going to talk about how that shows up with authority and in particular our relationship with God and spiritual connectedness. So I hope to see you soon in the blog. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.